When it comes to the joints of the body, yes, they click, absolutely. And we are often told, well, you're clicking, that's not a good thing. And that's true. Clicking is not necessarily a good thing. What it is the body's way of self-adjusting, adjusting its own joint alignment, right? So what is a joint? It's a bone and a bunch of stuff and then some more bone. And so those bones have to sit like in situ with each other, which means in position around each other. And there's usually quite a complicated situation within each joint. We've got a whole bunch of them in the body. So when they click, it really is just, it's getting that joint back in alignment. It was in torsion, it was twisted a little bit. So we get clicks in our neck, we get clicks in our fingers, and in our wrists, and in our knees. The knees are a big one to click. And of course, within our spine, in our feet. So the science behind it is the science. But the thing that you need to know is that it's not necessarily the click that's the bad thing. It's the fact that it needs to click, which is a bad sign. It means that the muscles above and below that joint are too flexed. And what's happening is that those muscles themselves are pulling the joint out of alignment little by little through the day as we function, so that eventually the body's got to self-adjust. That over time can cause a bit of wear and tear on that joint to the point where we could become susceptible to things like osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, as well as just general pain. But oftentimes when it comes to the joint, it starts at the muscles. For example, your knee. The knee is one of the most complicated joints, in my opinion. But there's thigh muscles and there's calf and shin muscles. And that's what we're dealing with. So when I look at the knee, I'm looking above it into the hamstrings, your thigh muscles, right? All of those. There's a whole bunch of them there. The front, back, side, other side. And then down below in the calf muscle, you've got the shin, which doesn't come into play quite as much. And it's not just that gastrocnemius muscle that you think of, the calf muscle, you know, that one in the back that kind of sits there. And it's not the one below, the soleus. It's actually, there's three other ones deeper in that run along the back of the shin bone, right? That run along the back of the tibia. So those come into play. Those are all relevant when it comes to knee pain. Not so much. Usually it's the thigh muscles that are the problem. When you look at the thigh muscles, we have a tendency to overstretch certain thigh muscles and understretch other thigh muscles, and that's going to cause some imbalance, right? You're going to have muscles that are longer and leaner than other muscles, which are going to be continually stuck in a state of flexion, and we call that tight. We call that tension. It's stuck in a partial flexion, right? So what do we want to do? We want to have really good nutrition to make sure our muscles are getting the nutrition they need to be able to finish their flexion properly, right? That's where magnesium comes in, a few other nutrients as well, because things like magnesium will help a muscle release after it's been flexed. But the other thing to do is to know the thigh muscles really well. If there's any kind of knee pain, or if you're noticing that as you get older that your knees are clicking more, or that your elbow's clicking more, or whatever, that's a sign. The click is the first sign that you are heading into a state of dysfunction. And all you got to do is get curious about it and seek some guidance as to how to correct that. And oftentimes it's quite simple. It's easy to overthink it. Definitely easy to overthink it, but that's my job. My job is to, I mean, I've done all the overthinking in the first 13 years of my career. Now that I've kind of got the map and I've looked at it and studied it, I've seen enough patients where I can look at, okay, yes, this seems really complicated. Leave that to me. Here are your simple solutions, and I'm going to explain this in a way that's going to work in a practical way for you, because what you need to do is understand your joint to the point where you can do something about it. That's all you need to do. So if there is some clicking in the knee, in the elbow, in the neck, in the jaw, in the fingers, in the feet, wherever, it's fine. But you have the option of getting curious about it now and correcting a dysfunction early instead of waiting, and 3 years down the road you've got a repeat strain injury and now you're in trouble. Or now there's rheumatoid arthritis setting in, and now you got to do all the other stuff in addition to, and then it just piles on top, right? And when a solution to a problem is found when the problem's still small, it's usually a much easier solution than when the problem is really big. So if there's clicking in your joints, come on in. Let's look at it together. Let me help you understand why and what those muscles are needing from you and your body movements and your day-to-day, as well as your self-care, which doesn't have to be an hour a day. It only has to be 10 minutes sometimes, depends on the situation. But let's look at it together. Let's find a solution before the problem gets big enough that it is actually a problem. We'll see you soon.